Start. You're all very welcome to our September meeting of the Assurance, Audit and Risk Committee. We're going to start now with notice and summons of meeting and attendance. Denise is going to take that.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. You're hereby summoned to attend the bi-monthly meeting of the Assurance, Audit and Risk Committee, which will be held here in the Council Chamber, Guildhall, Derry, on Monday the 23rd of September at 4 p.m. I'll take the roll. Firstly, I have apologies from Alderman Darren Guy, Alderman Keith Kerrigan, Councillor Raymond Barr, Councillor Amanda Clark, Councillor Caitlin Deeney.
She's running a bit late.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Caroline Devine.
Sure.
I have apologies from Councillor Gary Donnelly and apologies from Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Sure.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
Sure.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Sure.
Councillor Declan Norris. Councillor Martin Riley. Councillor Brian Tierney. Thank you. And members, I also have apologies today from Brona Tierney, or Brona Slavin, our independent member. Thanks.
Thank you, Denise. Now I'll read our broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you're seated in the lower public seating media area, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. By entering the council chamber and using the press or lower public seating area, you're consenting to being filmed and consenting to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes, and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. If you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. A copy of the Council's privacy notice can be found on the Council website. Moving on now to declarations of members' interest. Do we have any declarations? No. Item 5 then, Chairperson's business, and I haven't been contacted about anything. So moving on then to item 6, matters arising from the open minutes of the Assurance, Audit and Risk Committee held on Tuesday the 16th of July. No matters arising. Okay. Moving on now to item 7, and that's the financial statements for 2023, 2024, and Alfie's going to take those.
Thank you, Chair. Members, as you may be aware, we're under direction from the Department for Communities to prepare our accounts, and they must be submitted to Department for Communities by 30th of June each year, and that's obviously a very substantial document, and it's attached to today's report. Those accounts then require to be audited by 30th of September 2024, and today's report is effectively presenting you those final audited accounts. Just taking you through the two key elements of the accounts from officers' perspectives is firstly the outturn report, and that was reported back to Governance and Strategic Planning Committee back in June and approved by the committee at that date. And the second key element is the governance statement, which was also submitted and approved by our audit committee back in June 24. So this year's audit was carried out by Summer NI on behalf of the Northern Ireland Audit Office, who are here to present their findings of the audit. And just before passing to Brian O'Neill from the Audit Office, I would just point out, members, that there's basically been no change in the figures that have been reported to Governance and Strategic Planning Committee back in June. So just for your recollection, we reported a 1.611 million surplus, of which we transferred 1.25 million to our capital fund and 361k to our district fund, and that remains the position as reported today within the accounts. So on that basis, members, I'll pass over to Brian from the Audit Office to take you through his findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think Christine Hagan from Summer is there, and Christine's going to take the report, if that's okay, Christine.
That's grand, Brian. Yep.
Thank you.
Chair and members, you have the draft report, those charge and governance, in the papers today. I'm going to take you through the key messages and the key findings from the audit that we've just completed. So with respect to the key message, the most important one, we are proposing an unqualified audit opinion. Members will note that there is an emphasis in matter paragraph included within the proposed audit opinion. And just to highlight that an emphasis in matter paragraph is not a qualification on these accounts. And it really arises from concerns that the component auditor has around the funding arrangements within the quota. The proposed audit certificate is in Appendix 2 of the papers, and I will draw members' attention to that as I seek some actions at the end of the key messages part of this report. As Alfie says, there are no adjustments to your financial statements, and we have not proposed any uncorrected misstatements. There are also no priority 1 findings within the audit. It is very clean. With respect to proper arrangements, we have responsibilities as auditors, and we have highlighted a number of improvements, which I'll take members through later in the report. Status of the audit, we're broadly complete, largely complete. We will complete just final checks and balances on the signed accounts that we receive. We are awaiting 2 solicitor confirmation letters, and we're awaiting the component auditors signed sort of completion documents, and we received signed accounts today from them. In terms of messaging then, from an independence point of view, we report our independence, both ourselves and the Audit Office, to Derry Strabane District Council with respect to completion of the audit, and recognise our responsibilities for the management of personal data. The performance improvement audit will take place October-November time and will be reported back to this committee separately. And today we're just highlighting from an action point of view for members is to review the Appendix 1 and 2 of the report, which is the proposed letter of representation and the proposed audit certificate. And maybe at the end of the report, Chair, we just seek confirmation that members are content with that for the minutes. So section 2 of the report is just the audit scope, and I'm just reporting that there were no change to the audit scope, to the audit strategy that we brought back to a previous meeting to members. And section 3 of the report is our response to our significant risks. So the management override a control risk, and we have no issues to report back to committee. The risk of fraud and revenue recognition, again, we have no issues to report back to committee. The significant risk 3 was the risk of going concern status of the City Derry Airport, quota. And again, we have put a bit of detail in terms of the outcome of that risk. With respect to the going concern, we have no issues to report back. I think the business case is a positive news story to report back to this committee with respect to funding from government and confirmation of funding for government for the 24-25 year. We also note around the PSO route funding and positive discussions that are happening with extensions of that funding. But pleased to report in terms of our assessment that there is no going concern risk for the period under review from an audit perspective. In terms of significant risk 4, financial resilience, again, we consider the Council has suitable oversight and monitoring of spending through Governance and Strategic Planning Committee. The Chief Financial Officer's assessment of going concern is appropriate. And again, recognising that the outlook does remain challenging for every organisation, including public bodies. We're content there's no issues identified from our work that impact any concern on the going concern the financial resilience and the governance of financial decisions within Council. Section 4 of the report just summarises some of the qualitative aspects of the findings from the audit. So in terms of accounting policies, we note no change from last year. Accounting estimates, so we place some reliance on experts in terms of some of the work that's included within your financial statements. And we did make some recommended disclosure changes to the narrative across some of the financial statements disclosures, and we're content that management have processed those satisfactorily. Going concern, again, we're highlighting there's no issue to report back. The narrative report, the remuneration report, and the governance statement, which is the front part of your financial statements in effect. So again, just minor changes to wording within some of those documents. And there's no issues in terms of legality, propriety or losses. The internal control environment, again, with no priority ones. We have identified a number of recommendations, which I'll come to. In terms of related parties, we have highlighted a recommendation, a P2 recommendation with regard to signing of some of the disclosures. There's some other matters that we felt important to report back. So the VAT reclaim, you'll note within your numbers there's a contingent asset within the council's accounts, and that's a piece of work that's ongoing. Hopefully will bring some positive funding news later in the year. And then we're highlighting the planning review and the work that has been brought back to this committee. And again, it's something that ourselves in the audit office will keep under review. So in terms of audit recommendations, we've made 4. The first one is around related party declarations and the absence, I guess, in terms of some of the declarations that we tested. So management have accepted that needs some work, and we'll seek to address that recommendation. Finding 2 is to do with payroll reconciliation, and again, as part of our audit processes, we didn't receive a payroll reconciliation, which we felt was quite unusual, but management subsequently provided one during the audit, and have agreed that that's something that we'll look at going forward in next year's audit. Finding 3 is some income and expenditure cut-off errors that we identified. So our income testing identified a number of post-year-end transactions that hadn't been included in debtors, and our expenditure cut-off testing identified a number of post-year-end transactions that had been included in creditors. So again, we are reporting that they're control issues and they're not material or significant in any respect. The final finding is to do with the payment of invoices and the prompt payment, and just highlighting that the council aren't meeting the target of payment of suppliers within 30 days, the 90% target. And again, a number of reasons for why that might be happening, but the change in purchasing system and the number of payment runs and things like that we look at again when we seek an update at the next year's audit. In terms of proper arrangements, we're highlighting that we're content that the council has in place proper arrangements for securing economy, efficiency and effectiveness in the use of its resources. We have highlighted again here within the improvement around the prompt payment outturn, the use of some legacy disciplinary procedures and a number of additional policies that were either due or overdue for renewal or revision, including the digital services policy and the counter fraud policy. So again, not major areas of review needed, but we're just highlighting that they need some attention. Section 5 of the report's pleasing, so no misstatements to your financial statements and no uncorrected misstatements. And Appendix 1 and Appendix 2 are the letter for rep and the proposed audit certificate, which I'm asking members to confirm that they're content with before we move to signing. Chair, that was quick canter through, but happy to pause now and take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Christine. That's a comprehensive update. Do we have any questions or comments from members? Councillor Logue.
Thank you, and thank you very much for that update. I do want to say that overall the report seems very healthy. While there is a few recommendations, I have no doubt that the team will get to work to get those up and running as soon as possible. So thank you very much for that report.
Any further comments? Are members happy then to sign that off?
I propose.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Thank you, Councillor Norris. Everybody content? So that moves us on then to item 9, internal audit reports, and Deborah's going to take that one.
Thank you, Chair. Purpose of this report is to update members on the internal audit work completed within Derry City and Strabane District Council in the period July to September 2024. The following audit work has been finalised recently: internal audit of food safety, internal audit of Derry and Strabane Labour Market Partnership for the 23-24 financial year, and other internal audit work. We start first with the internal audit of food safety. This audit was carried out as part of the agreed internal audit plan of work for 2024-2025. Internal audit reviewed the areas of food hygiene inspections, including the food hygiene rating system, food standards inspections, food sampling response work for both food complaints and food poisoning, and performance management. This audit has been given a satisfactory audit opinion, which is the highest level available. Internal audit noted that a range of good practice systems are in place for the delivery of the food safety service. Systems are in place to ensure that food hygiene inspections are identified when they become due and are carried out within the required time frame. Follow-up notifications are sent to both food businesses and the Food Standards Agency promptly, and comprehensive records of the process are maintained. Similar systems are in place for food standards inspections, with comprehensive records maintained. Internal audit noted that detailed microbiological and chemical food sampling programs are drafted annually based on recognised sampling protocols. Audit testing showed that food complaints and identified instances of food poisoning were responded to promptly, and that investigations resulting from these were carried out in accordance with prescribed procedures. In relation to performance management, internal audit noted a range of internal and external measures in place, with comprehensive internal monitoring carried out regularly and comprehensive records of this maintained. Internal audit have made 2 recommendations to further strengthen the control environment going forward in the following areas: the setting and monitoring of food sampling targets and sampling records. Management have responded positively to the recommendations raised, and the table of recommendations with implementation dates is included in the report, which is attached at Appendix A for information. Second audit carried out in the period then was the internal audit of Derry and Strabane Labour Market Partnership for the 23-24 financial year. This audit was requested by the LMP manager to comply with a requirement within the LMP financial guidelines and funding agreement to have an internal audit carried out, and was agreed as part of the 24-25 internal annual audit plan of work. Paragraph 3.2.2 provides you some background of the Labour Market Partnership and the accountability framework. Internal audit reviewed the risk management, control and governance arrangements for Derry and Strabane Labour Market Partnership, the Labour Market Partnership admin and operational expenditure, purchasing, procurement and contract service level agreements in place. Internal audit was satisfied with the corporate governance and control arrangements in relation to the following areas: the risk management process, Derry and Strabane LMP structure, standing orders, insurance, gifts and hospitality policy, training of LMP members and frequency and format of LMP meetings. In relation to LMP delivery, internal audit was satisfied the partnership plans and LMP budgets have been developed, the quarterly claims to DFC had been completed and that these were submitted in the correct format. Internal audit is also satisfied with the completion of progress reports to DFC on the outcome of the work undertaken by Derry and Strabane LMP. In relation to the review of expenditure, internal audit confirmed invoices, accruals and journals to the LMP cost centre on the Council's financial system, and are satisfied that adequate explanation and or supporting documentation was received from the LMP manager to justify the value of accruals made. Internal audit also confirmed the relevance of items claimed to LMP. In relation to payments reviewed, internal audit are satisfied that all payments reviewed had an appropriately completed purchase order attached, all dated prior to the invoice date, and are satisfied that payments reviewed had appropriate segregation of duties in place, were procured via tender exercise, and invoices were appropriately authorised for payment. Internal audit are also satisfied that contracts, service level agreements were in place for the sample of projects reviewed. In addition, internal audit are satisfied that of 13 recommendations made by internal audit in last year's report, 12 are now fully implemented and 1 partially implemented. Internal audit have made 5 recommendations within this report to improve the control environment going forward. The key priority 1 recommendations relate to improving the control environment in the following areas: format of contracts, signing and sealing of contracts, and completion of expenditure approval form prior to contract development. While some control weaknesses were identified across the areas under review, internal audit is satisfied that overall there are adequate controls in place to manage risks within each area and that these controls were operating effectively. As a result, this audit has been given the assurance level of satisfactory, which is the highest level achievable. Management again have responded positively to the recommendations raised, and the table of recommendations with implementation dates is included in the report, which is attached to Appendix B for information. Internal audit also continued to be available across the Council to carry out reviews of financial governance and operational arrangements as required. There are no implications as a result of this audit work. It's recommended to seek members' comments on the internal audit reports. I'm happy to take any questions from an audit perspective, and management from each of the areas audited are here today if you have any questions from an operational perspective. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Deborah. Do we have any questions for Deborah or any comments? Councillor Leonard.
Thank you very much, Chair. Once again, it's pleasing to see a satisfactory report, and I've said it before, it emphasises the importance of internal audit, and indeed external audit as well, to keep us all safe and keep us all right, and acknowledging that 12 out of the 13 recommendations have been achieved, and I've no doubt the ones, your new 5 will be achieved very quickly as well. So thank you to everybody involved.
Thank you for that. So everybody content? Okay, so we'll move on then. Our next 2 items at 10 and 11, the National Fraud Initiative and the Audit Office Report, Public Bodies Response to Misrepresented Soil Analysis, are for information. Do we have any questions or any comments on either of those? Councillor Leonard.
Just, Chair, on the soil sampling, I suppose for the farmers that have been held up in their planning, it's due to get their planning applications considered and through. It's good that this has gone this far. Yes, there's points for a range of people that need to be adhered to, but it's pleasing to note that our council is very much involved in the whole process. So well done to all the officers involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair. Well, that's a very, very detailed report. There is certainly a lot on it. I think there was only 5 or 6 planning applications. 4, 3. I thought it was more. Anyhow,
there was,
regardless,
Chair, there was 5, 1 that was approved and 4 that were.
right. But however many doesn't really matter. But I think the key message from the overall report was for agencies and departments to fully understand their responsibilities and maybe more collaborative working together. So I would be keen to hear going forward, is there a plan and who's going to lead in that plan so that, you know, we can deal with these issues so there'd be no reoccurrence of what has occurred. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Members, there's obviously very significant consideration of the report that has been undertaken by the Audit Office. Before that, obviously, there have been collaboration between central and local government and indeed the various agencies such as NIA. Again, there's been very good reflection in terms of how we can collaborate better. There has also been some sort of subgroups and task and finish groups set up in order to actually consider this this matter particularly, but also to ensure that we're consistently becoming more and more aware of any potential fraud of any type that might impact the planning service. So all of that work is ongoing. We have just recently fed back to DFI some of our thoughts in terms of wider considerations and, you know, potential issues that need to be addressed. So that's all being collated, and we will bring further update reports to members in terms of keeping you up to date in terms of that over the coming months. But certainly, as you said, you know, our council were one of the ones that, you know, invoked our fraud response team as early as we possibly could, and indeed have been engaging with all interested parties and the PSNI and obviously the applicants as well, as we're going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Karen. Okay, members are happy to move on. So we'll move then into confidential. Okay, so item 12 then is